Since ancient times, Native Americans, also known as Indians or Indians, have inhabited the North American continent, from northern Alaska to the Gulf Coast of Florida. Currently, there are more than 9 million Native Americans living in this country, representing hundreds of tribes with extremely diverse languages, cultures, and traditions. Native Americans were the first to explore, and use many precious medicinal plants, such as echinacea, corn, and potatoes. Tribes such as the Navajo and Hopi have exquisite crafts, from textiles to pottery making. They also have colorful festivals and ceremonies, such as the Lakota Sundance and the powwow of various tribes. Their folk tales and legends often contain profound lessons about life and connection to nature. Here are a few interesting facts about the rich history and culture of the Indians. American Indians speak more than 300 languages. North America is home to more than 300 different languages. However, after colonization, many of these languages disappeared due to the government's assimilation policy. In 1868, President Ulysses Grant declared, "Two-thirds of our troubles lie in differences in language today. Their barbarous dialect should be abolished and replaced by English." Beginning in the 1800s, Native Americans were displaced from their communities and moved to government-designated reservations. Indian children attended Indian boarding schools and attended school in English. It was not until 1972, when Congress passed the Indian Education Act, that Native American tribes were allowed to teach their traditional languages. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, as of 2013, there were 169 indigenous languages used in daily activities of Indians. Many of these languages have very small numbers of speakers. In 1990, the U.S. Congress passed the Native American Languages Act, which provided support for the preservation and revitalization of Indian languages. However, up to now, the vast majority of 300 languages are predicted to be at risk of disappearing. The first newspaper in a Native American language was published in 1828 before colonization. Indian languages were transmitted primarily orally. After European colonization, some tribes began to adopt writing systems. A member of the Cherokee tribe, named Sequoyah, spent 12 years developing a writing system so that the tribe's people could learn to read and write in their language. He completed the 86-letter syllabary in 1821. Because syllabics were created to represent specific sounds of the Cherokee language, the Cherokee were easy to learn. Within a period of 3 months to 3 years, most tribes could read and write in this language, Cushman said. On February 21, 1828, the first edition of the Cherokee Phoenix was published in the land of the Cherokee people in the state of Georgia. This was the first bilingual newspaper in America. It was printed in both English and Cherokee. Sequoyah provided a major breakthrough for the Cherokee community, helping them maintain and develop their own language and culture amid increasing pressures from Europeans. His writing system was not only a communication tool, but also a symbol of resilience and national pride. Today, the Sequoyah syllabary is still in use and is an important part of Cherokee cultural heritage. There are 574 recognized tribes in the United States. Of these 574 tribes, 229 live in Alaska, the largest state in the U.S. California has 109 federally recognized tribes, the second highest in the nation. This is also the state with the most Indians living. These federally recognized tribes stand independently of the United States, like other sovereign nations. However, many tribes are not federally recognized, meaning they are not eligible for government programs and assistance. As of 2020, 66 tribes across 13 states receive state-specific recognition. While this recognition does not give them federal rights, it is also a step in acknowledging the existence of their contemporary culture and history. Native Americans had a rich agricultural background. Early American Indian tribes had rich agriculture, with many local crops becoming familiar dishes around the globe. Many tribes domesticated the crops we still eat today. In 2016, experts estimated that up to 60% of the global food supply was based on crops native to North America. Corn was created by indigenous farmers in southern Mexico and Guatemala about 10,000 years ago. Native Americans also domesticated familiar plants such as beans, squash, potatoes, and tomatoes. Additionally, Native Americans developed many sustainable farming methods, such as intercropping different types of crops to maintain soil fertility and prevent pests. A prominent example is the Three Sisters, a traditional farming technique of the Iroquois tribes in which corn, beans, and squash were grown together to support each other in growth and development. Develop. These crops not only provide abundant food sources, but also contribute to creating a balanced and sustainable agricultural ecosystem. These Native American heritage not only have historical value, but also play an important role in maintaining and developing modern agriculture. The Haudenosaunee Confederacy is one of the world's oldest surviving democracies, also known to the French as the Iroquois Confederacy. The Haudenosaunee Confederacy was formed by 5 tribal nations: Mohawk, Oneida, Onondaga, Cayuga, and Seneca. Some researchers believe that this alliance was founded in 1142, while this alliance says that they existed since time immemorial. Whatever the numbers, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy is considered one of the oldest democracies on Earth. The nations are united by the Kaienir-Ko-Wa, Great Law of Peace, which serves as their own constitution. A 6th nation, Tuscarora, joined the Union in the 18th century. Many tribes were democratic, but the Haudenosaunee Confederacy included many tribes, spread over a large geographic area. This is their difference, said Dr. Donald A. Grind, author of the book Exemplar of Liberty at the University of Buffalo. Professor Grind's research focuses on the influence of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy on the U.S. Constitution. There are 3 main contributions, the professor said. First, that sovereignty belongs to the people. Second is the separation of power, dividing it into different state agencies. And third is the Constitution itself, whose provisions can be cited, similar to how the Haudenosaunee recited their Great Law of Peace each year. Unlike the American Constitution, women played an active role in Haudenosaunee democracy. Native Americans were forced to relocate under the Indian Relocation Act of 1830. In 1830, President Andrew Jackson signed the Indian Removal Act. This act arose from the desire of white people to settle the fertile lands of the Choctaw, Cherokee, Creek, and other tribes. This act forced Native Americans to leave Alabama, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, and Tennessee, and relocate to Indian Territory in the ancestral lands of the state of Oklahoma. Thousands of people died during this forced migration. This painful journey is known as the Trail of Tears. The tribes faced harsh weather conditions, food and water shortages, and widespread epidemics. The Indian Removal Act caused heavy human and cultural loss to the affected tribes. The Cherokee were one of the tribes that suffered the most, with about 4,000 of them losing their lives during the journey of more than 1,000 miles. This migration not only weakened the social structure of the tribes, but also left deep wounds in the history and memory of Native Americans. Native Americans were granted U.S. citizenship in 1924. The Indian Citizenship Act was signed into law by President Calvin Coolidge on June 2, 1924. Before this, some Native Americans had already been considered U.S. citizens due to the Dawes Act of 1887, which granted citizenship to those who accepted land allotments. However, despite being granted full citizenship in name, many Native Americans were still barred from voting. Voting rights were determined by individual states, and many states continued to deny Native Americans the right to vote for decades. Additionally, states employed discriminatory measures to limit Native Americans' access to elections. For example, many states implemented literacy tests before allowing individuals to vote, which hindered Native Americans and other ethnic groups who were not literate in English. These practices persisted until the Voting Rights Act was passed in 1965. This act prohibited all forms of discrimination in the voting process, ensuring the right to vote for all U.S. citizens, including Native Americans. However, many challenges still exist, and Native Americans continue to fight for their rights within the U.S. political and social systems. The slow progress in enforcing these rights reflects the ongoing struggle of Native Americans to have their citizenship rights fully recognized and protected. The Navajo Nation is the largest tribal land. In the United States, the Navajo Nation's land spans nearly 25,000 square miles, an area equivalent to the size of West Virginia and more than twice that of Maryland. This territory extends into the states of Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah. In 2021, the Navajo Nation surpassed the Cherokee Nation to become the largest tribe by population, with nearly 400,000 registered members. Naturally, this vast land has become a hub for many Native American languages. The Navajo Nation is not only a cultural and historical center, but also a thriving community, preserving its rich linguistic heritage amidst the modern challenges and opportunities faced by its people. Not all Native American tribes had their own lands. There are approximately 326 tribal land areas in the United States, and the federal government recognizes 574 tribes. However, the average tribal land area is only about 2.6% of the territory they occupied before colonization. Many tribes lost all their land when they were forcibly relocated. A 2014 study by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development revealed that 68% of Native Americans and Alaska Natives live on or near their ancestral homelands. The dramatic reduction in land has had significant impacts on the cultural, economic, and social well-being of these communities. Despite these challenges, many tribes have worked tirelessly to preserve their traditions, languages, and ways of life. For instance, various cultural programs and educational initiatives have been established to reconnect younger generations with their heritage. Additionally, economic development projects on tribal lands have created new opportunities for self-sufficiency and growth. The resilience of Native American and Alaska Native communities is evident in their ongoing efforts to reclaim and revitalize their lands, cultures, and identities. Through legal battles, cultural revitalization efforts, and economic initiatives, these communities continue to strive for a future that honors their rich history while adapting to contemporary challenges.